Do you think video games are the cause of violence?
I think it's quite exaggerated. I don't really think they are like the sole reason. Um, I definitely think that like kids who don't understand it properly could then be more prone to violence and so on. But I don't think it would be like the main cause or anything. I think that's over exaggerated. So no, I don't think it is.
That's a difficult question. I think it depends on how much you play. So, if you play quite a lot of video games, like 3-4 hours a day, but even more, it can actually be. But if you don't play as much, probably not, because you're not really sucked into the game. You don't really get as much addictive to it, and yeah, I just depends how much you play, I think.
I don't think video games are the main cause of violence because I think it depends on like how you're brought up. So if you like, I don't know, parents split up, it can affect you mentally, and with like some kids they get involved in a lot of crime, but I don't think they've grown up with video games. I don't believe that video games cause violence.
I don't think they're the main cause. I don't think they're really a cause at all, to be honest. So I think the majority of people do play, especially boys, play video games, and there's a very small minority which will be quite violent. So I don't think it does really affect us that much.
I do think the video games are the main cause of violence, and I think this because at a young age you can be so heavily influenced by anything, friends or like what family do, what people higher up than you do, and so I think when you're playing a game, for instance, you can be influenced by what you're seeing and want to do that outside of the screen.
What could be done to help?
I would say probably just making sure that the parents can help their kids, because I think mainly it is kids that you see, because they grow up with video games. I think make sure that they can distinguish video games from what's reality, just because I think that's where the problem is. Kids may want to bring video games into reality, and that's where you get the problem, because then they see more violence, or just stick to the age ratings and make sure kids are mature enough to actually play the games and so on, that kind of promotes that.
You can put restrictions on, maybe. Maybe your parents can get involved and try to help you. Maybe do other activities, not play video games, because it leads to a sedentary lifestyle. It can be quite unhealthy, so maybe just go out there, play a sport, find a hobby to do something. And yeah, try to find a good connection with friends that can maybe help you with that as well.
You could place discipline on them and make sure they take the video games away from them if that's causing the problem. Maybe, I don't know, maybe they should see something like a professional about it.
I guess you could change the video games to make them maybe a bit less violent, or maybe just teach in general like that these video games aren't real and they shouldn't be used in real life at all.
At such a young age, I think it's up to the parents 100%, because the kids can't do anything about it. So I think you just need to keep a good watch on what your child is playing, and if you feel like it's getting too violent, you can take that away from them and replace it with a less violent game, and hopefully that'll change their mindset.
How does this affect people aged 16 to 22-year-old?
16 to 22, I think that's probably at the age when people can. I say most people could probably distinguish, reality from violence in video games and what you should and shouldn't do. But I think it depends what you grow up with. But I think in that age group, it's kind of, you're mature enough to understand, and if you're not, then that's kind of where people start needing help. But I think 16 to 22 is probably, it probably isn't a strong, influence on violence. I think there are other reasons for why those people may be violent in their, just in their lives and so on.
Well, it can affect you in a positive way as well as with a negative way. A positive way, you can meet friends there, you can play online, connect, socialise. But in a negative way, it affects them because it can affect your work rate. You can be addictive, so you might not be able to do things that you need to do and have to do because of how addictive it can be. Especially with games such as Fortnite now being on a big trend.
I think video games wouldn't really affect people that age, because it's more when you're younger, you're more easily influenced. Whereas if you're that age, I don't think it would affect you as much, but I think it would be quite good for them to watch as well.
I think they'll find it interesting because if they've gone through it, especially, then they'll watch it and think what could have been or what has actually happened to them.
What would you want to see from a documentary focusing on such a hard-hitting topic?
Maybe how it's affected people's lives, or maybe show an example of someone who was affected by a video game and they went and did something to someone and how their life was affected by it.
Taking it like exciting, basically, and something that really grips the viewer of the age range. As you want to, if you're focusing on how younger kids can be influenced by it, you want to show how elders can as well. I think that'd be quite interesting.